Anybody who does the voice of a character named Slappy has my instant respect. Mr. Swale hails from Canada, which of course means he's doing this convention for a case of Molson's and a slab of back bacon.
2 cases.
2 cases of Molson. Okay, that's been renegotiated.
Yes.
As with all of our other voice actors, his credits are so numerous that I really can't mention all of them here. But I do want to single out 2 of my personal favorites. He was Godai in Maizone Toku, which is my personal favorite anime show, and I just take privilege in saying that. And also Nightcrawler from X-Men Evolution, which was one of the best animated shows around. So,
of all time.
Yes. He's also a huge hockey and baseball fan. Plays the guitar, plays the drums. He is an all-around man, ladies and gentlemen, Brad Swaile.
So yes, my name is Brad Swaile.
Sorry.
That's okay. I've set it up like this before because people always find really fancy ways to pronounce my name, which is excellent that people are putting forth an effort. But if I owned an orca, it would be Brad Swaile. Brad Swaile. But it's funny, no, it's...
And you just told me that.
I know, like, but people look at it and there's, because of the placement of the I and the E on the end, it always becomes a very fantastical name. So, maybe I should just change it. I've gotten Brad Swahili before, too. Now you're stretching it. So yes, I'm a voice actor from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm really excited to be here. Anime Central was actually my very first convention. There was a little show that I worked on called Gundam Wing, and because of that series, you're snickering. Because of that series, I got invited to my first convention, which was this very convention back in 2002, and I've never been back since. So it's really cool to see how much this little boy's all grown up. This has become a monster, you know. And I've been hearing over the years about ACen and how big it's grown, and to be back here and kind of witnessing it firsthand is it's pretty special for me. And it's nice that coming into my first experience here, I had, you know, a few titles under my belt in the anime world, and so much has happened in the last 10, 11 years that it's fun to have a lot of new shows to talk about and what. So yeah, maybe I should talk a bit about how I kind of got into the biz. Why not? Sure. Quickly,
asking yourself.
like a lot of voice actors, I started off doing theater. I got into theater because of my sister. I have a sister who's a year older than me, and basically everything that she did I wanted to do as well. So I got mixed up with a place called the Vancouver Youth Theatre, which was kind of a cool organization. It was a company that would put together a cast of kids, and we'd play build a show and then tour it around. And at the time there was an agency that was pretty smart because they were right across the street from the theatre. So they'd approach some of the kids that were going through the theatre program and ask if they wanted to join the agency. So they approached me and my sister at one point, and we said, "Oh yes, please." And they said they'd start sending us out on auditions for, you know, movies and TV shows and commercials and things like that. So that's kind of where I got my start. And then, just out of the blue, I got a call from the agency saying that I had an audition for a cartoon. And, you know, I love cartoons. I grew up watching cartoons. I still watch cartoons. So I got very excited, and it was a show called My Little Ponytails. So I went in and I read, and I got it. And I landed the role of a character named Ace, who was a badass pony. Well, as badass as My Little Ponies get, anyway. He's kind of mean for, like, a couple episodes, so I call him Badass. And it kind of took off from there, you know, shortly thereafter. So I worked on some American cartoons like that. And then I had my first audition for an anime series, which was a show called Ranma 1/2, which was awesome, you know, and that was really my first introduction to anime since watching, you know, Akira, or Akira if you prefer, back in the day. So, you know, I was, being an art guy myself, I was in love with the style of anime, and to actually get to provide some voice work for these shows was something that was definitely right up my alley. And that kind of led to several other anime series. You know, I've managed to work on several Gundam series, and shows like Death Note and Dragon Ball Z and things like that. So, I mean, I've been pretty fortunate. And even now, a newer series called Black Lagoon that I'm pretty proud of. And tonight, actually, here, we're doing a world premiere exclusive of the English dub of the first installment from the 3rd season of Black Lagoon. So, I mean, it's all happening. It's all happening. Okay, well, do you guys have questions?
Before we do that, we've got one lady who wants to sit down, so.
Come on in. Welcome. Welcome to the party. Again, I'll apologize in advance for anything I may or may not say.
Okay, come on here.
So I hear from a lot of the voice actors from Funimation stuff. They all live in Texas.
Yeah.
How's being up in Vancouver, being in Canada, for the quality of life and the scenery and like the work that you're doing?
Well, Vancouver's kind of an interesting place. Back in the day when our dollar was way down here, it became very cost effective to start filming, mostly on-camera productions in Vancouver and the surrounding areas. Partially because our dollar, you got so much bang for your buck coming up to Vancouver, but also we have ridiculous amounts of scenery in a relatively small geographical area. We have ocean, which leads to beaches and all that kind of stuff. We also have mountains. You can basically drive from the local mountains to the beach, you can drive in about half an hour. And if you want to get more exotic, then it's like, an hour and change outside of town, and you're in, one of the best ski resorts on the planet. So it's a beautiful place to live. It's ridiculously expensive now because people are aware of how incredible it can be. But yeah, I'm born and raised in Vancouver. It's my home, and I do love it. So I feel pretty fortunate being there. And I was lucky that there was a kind of a hub of what they call Hollywood North developing right in my backyard, and I kind of managed to sneak my foot in the door at a relatively early age, and as long as I can keep getting work in this industry, I will continue to pursue it. I also have a real job, unfortunately. I do like to pay my rent and eat from time to time, and the acting gigs, particularly anime, which less and less is coming up to Canada. It makes it pretty unreliable as far as a source of income goes. So my quote real job is graphic design illustration, which is what I went to school for and all that. And I'm kind of fortunate that I have a steady job, that I have an understanding with the company that they'll allow me to duck out for studio sessions, auditions, and things like that when I need to. They understand that is my true passion, and I'm not going to allow them to say no to me. So there you go. Hope I answered most of that question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Right in front.
You said you voice acted for My Little Pony.
Yeah.
What do you think about it now and how it's grown into bronies and all that?
There's a new My Little Pony? I have no idea. Yeah, it's a monster, right?
Yeah.
I'm still hoping, hey, maybe you guys can help me out with this. Okay, because I have pony experience, right? I would love for my character from My Little Pony Tales to make a tiny little cameo on the new series. So you guys got to spearhead that campaign for me. It's funny, I heard that this new My Little Pony show was coming out, and I thought, oh, that's so cool, man, because, when I was a little kid, my sister played with My Little Ponies, and I had to, because, for her to play G.I. Joe with me, I had to play a little bit of Pony and Barbie with her, right? And I've worked on My Little Pony and Barbie and all that stuff now, too, so it's kind of funny how it's come full circle. But I pictured a specific demographic for the new My Little Pony. I had no idea that the demographic was going to blow up in a strange, crazy direction and, start this whole movement of bronies and whatnot. That was something that was, relatively unexpected to me. But from what I understand, the writing of the new series is, I'll kind of link it in with a writing style of almost The Simpsons, where it's not just for a younger crowd, it kind of appeals to everybody. And that's obviously showing in the amount of popularity that's developed for that series. So hopefully one day I'll get to get my little baby toe into that series too. It'd be cool to reprise my role of Ace, the badass. He's not a badass. I don't know why I'm trying to talk him out that way. That's fine.
You were going to do
Going back to your most recent anime, Black Lagoon.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot of anime like that. What's your experience with that?
Okay. Black Lagoon. Okay. For anybody that knows kind of my repertoire of characters, they're usually the young heroic type guys that cry in every other episode. So to get to work on a show like Black Lagoon, where the language is filthy, there's blood and guts and violence all over the place, the main character is one of the coolest anime characters I've ever seen, was a real treat for me. And even I got to drop an F-bomb in the first season, 2 actually, I think. You should have seen me in studio for that, because I knew that was going to be like a pivotal moment in my voice acting career, something that would probably never happen again. So, I'm pretty quick when it comes to recording anime series for the ADR work. But for that one line where I got to drop my first F-bomb, my first professional F-bomb, I made them let me record like 10 times, because I was so excited. But it's a cool series, and, my hat's off to Funimation, because we started working on that series. We finished the first season, it was released, and then we finished the second season, and that's when the company that was distributing it kind of, vanished for a bit. And so it was all up in the air what was going to happen with the series, and I knew that we really liked the show. And Funimation stepped in, picked it up, and released it just as we would have with Jenny on. And then I started hearing about this third installment that was forthcoming. And then I heard that it was happening. And then I heard that it was released. And then I heard that it was being optioned for an English version. And Funimation was on board with that. And I got a little concerned that they were going to recast it and record it in Texas. Which, you know, it would have sucked for me because I like the show. I would like to continue working on the show. But Mareka, who plays Revy in the series, I can't picture anybody else doing it. And I know a lot of extremely talented voice actresses out there all across, you know, North America. But for me, Mareka was Revy. So I was really happy when I heard that they were going to come up to Vancouver and keep the original cast in check. Because that doesn't happen very often. So I felt very fortunate that that happened in this particular series, which I'm, you know, fairly passionate about. So.
Young lady in the back.
I know you voice actor. Hi, Brad.
Hello.
My name's Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Now, was voice acting one of your first choices? And if so, who inspired you? What voice actor inspired you to become a voice actor?
Well, it wasn't my first choice. I was going to be an astronaut. and of course, I was very young when I was, you know, I wanted to be basically a cartoon astronaut. Then I got a little bit older and realized there's a lot of math involved. And I'm more of an art guy, so okay, I guess I'll just, you know, draw pictures of space then instead of actually going up into it. But I did kind of fall into the voice acting. Like I said, I was starting off theater, then on-camera work, and then into the animation. And I didn't know much about it. My Little Pony Tales was the first cartoon I'd worked on, and because it was mostly a cast of kids, we were just kind of in there all, for the majority of us, experiencing it for the first time. But shortly after that, I did one episode of a series called Double Dragon, which was based on like a popular video game from the 80s, I guess, right? Or 90s, I can't remember when it came out. And I got to, for the first time, see the professionalism that went along with voice acting, because there was an incredible core cast in that series. And a gentleman named Michael Donovan and Scott McNeil were the two main characters in Double Dragon. And watching those two, you know, voice act really kind of opened my eyes to what the business could be. Because I was, you know, pretty young at the time. And having those guys as kind of, you know, mentors to look up to, I think really did help me understand what the industry was about, and really did inspire me to, you know, try and keep a foothold in the business. I'm fortunate that there's a ton of amazing talent in Vancouver that they really inspire you to work and make you want to quit at the exact same time, because they're just that good. But it's really nice being surrounded by, you know, incredible talent, and that's not just behind the mic. We're talking about, you know, directors, engineers, everybody behind the scenes in Vancouver are some of the most incredible talents on the planet. So I do feel really lucky that they're right in my backyard and I get to interact with them on a, you know, semi-regular basis. It's pretty cool gig.
There's gentleman here.
So I heard you're a hockey fan. Who do you think's going to be heading to the playoffs this year? Or to the Stanley Cup?
Well, unfortunately, okay, this still hurts. My Vancouver Canucks are out, so I'm moving on to baseball now. I don't know, it's one of those things, it's, in my mind, and I'm obviously biased being a hockey fan, I figure it's one of the most difficult sports trophies to win. Given the amount of games, the speed and size that the game is played at. And I also think that it's probably the coolest trophy that you can win, just as far as, I mean, that trophy's got stories, if it could talk. You know, it's a gigantic cup that you can drink out of, and everybody on the winning team gets, you know, a couple days with the cup. And so that thing has toured the planet. And if it could talk, it would probably have to sign a non-disclosure. Yeah, like I've heard stories where it's got left in certain places too, like in some of the places that this thing has vanished. Oh my, like wow, pretty incredible. So it's because of that. That being said, I mean it's really anybody's trophy to win. It's not necessarily the favorites this year. I don't think that are going to be shoo-ins to win the cup, because it's a grind to get there, and it really depends on how things recede during the process, which teams are going to beat each other up and not have enough energy to continue on, and which guys are going to, you know, finish the series in 4 or 5 games versus stretching it to a game 7. So I'm not making any predictions. I'll say Canucks next year. That's not going to happen either. Okay, let's move on. It's still painful.
Actually, I do have a quick question. How do you find, since you worked on a network show as well as working for a small private company like Funimation, how is the atmosphere different? Is there any real difference in what you do? Or is there a different atmosphere around the place where you work?
Well, it's kind of funny. In Vancouver, there's kind of a stigma that, especially with a lot of the anime dubs, that there's the ACen group, almost like there's a Funimation. And it's a bit different in Vancouver. There's several studios. So it doesn't particularly matter which studio I work for. I'm available to work at pretty much any studio in Vancouver. It just depends, a series that's coming up, because they're usually coming out of California. And it just really depends on which studio they're working through. So our experience is always similar but different depending on which studio you're actually recording at, because, there's different group of people that work at these places and whatnot. I did find that working on anime series versus working on American cartoons, there's obviously a difference in how they're recorded. Working on a show like X-Men, you have the entire cast in one room and recording it like you would imagine a radio play back in the day. So you have everybody to play off of and whatnot. But there's no cartoon yet. We record our voice tracks and then they go and they drop the cartoons to match what we've done. Anime, of course, is the opposite. The production's already been made. So they bring in one actor at a time, and you go and you record all your lines for, a batch of 4 or 5 episodes, whatever they're doing, and then they bring in the next actor. So it's very different in how they're, produced and recorded. One advantage of the anime is you have these brilliant visuals to play off of. Disadvantage, of course, there's mechanics involved because you're matching little animated flaps and whatnot. That really answers the question? More or less? Yeah. One thing I do remember about working on X-Men because of the, whoever was broadcasting and whatnot, is we do these little promos and things for it, and that was always kind of fun. You get to go in, you record a few episodes, then I get called in to do like some little blurb between, cartoons and stuff during, Saturday morning features. That was kind of cool. And then you get like Burger King toys and all that good stuff.
Lady over here, and then the gentleman over there.
Do you have any professional advice for someone looking to break into voice acting? Anything you wish you knew before, prior to coming on to?
Run! I get this question a lot, obviously. It's a tricky one to answer because depending on where you live, there's usually kind of different ways that people get into the business. That's all starting to change because obviously our world's getting much smaller with what we can accomplish with the internet and whatever else. My advice usually is kind of specific to how I got into it and what I noticed in my area. Advice that I'll usually give is do your research. You have so much information at your fingertips these days, more so than I ever did when I was starting out. So you really have the ability to research what's happening in your particular area, because that's probably going to be the easiest way to get your foot in the door. You don't want to just pick everything up, move to Texas, and hope that you're going to be working voice actor. It may work out, but there's no guarantees. And if you're like me, I like to have some assurance that I'm going to be able to, keep a roof over my head and whatnot. So what I usually recommend, and this is again kind of specific to my area, is if you can get in touch with, and again, it's at your fingertips, acting unions and things like that. They'll usually be able to provide you with a list of reputable agencies in your area. And then what I recommend is kind of touching base with these agencies and hitting them with these questions. What's happening in this area? Do you guys have voice departments? Because when I got into my agency, there was no voice division. Now it's a very common thing to have voice agents as well as the on-camera agents running different departments and whatnot. So if you can grill them for information, they're going to be probably the best resource for what's happening in any particular area as far as work goes. Because generally speaking, when a production comes to town, whatever town it is, the local agencies are usually the first to know about what the project is, and there'll be casting involved, and usually an agency will be allotted a certain amount of audition slots. So let's say they're reading for character A from show B, and they'll say, okay, well, we can give you 4 audition slots on Wednesday, and the agents will kind of look through and say, okay, so who would be good for that role? Okay, we'll put Brad in there, and Richard will go in there, and Scott will go in there, and whatnot. And then those slots are filled. So it's really, it can be very difficult for somebody just off the street to be trying to get that audition. And the important thing is getting the audition, and then if you're lucky enough to get an audition, you really want to impress the casting directors at the audition. If you go in there unprepared, unprofessional, you're probably not going to get called back, because that's somebody, that slot that you're taking up, somebody else could have been in there auditioning and maybe taking it a bit more seriously or whatnot. So you really want to make sure that when you get your foot in the door, you impress as much as you can. And I don't think that means being schmoozy and sucking up and all that kind of stuff, because that's part of the on-camera end of the industry that I didn't have thick enough skin for. I just hated it, which is kind of why I phased out the on-camera work, but still really do enjoy the voice stuff, the industry, even everything from the audition process I really do enjoy, which I didn't so much with the on-camera work. So, I mean, to sum that up, I guess it's basically do your research and see what's available to you. The only reason that I recommend agencies is because, like I said, they're going to be the people that know what's happening in that area. I wouldn't say throw all your money at them and, okay, get me work. But use them as a resource, because as much as you might want to be on their roster, if you're going to be a working actor, you're going to be making them money. So you're auditioning them as much as they're auditioning you.
John, what do you got?
Going back to Gundam, you've been in a couple different series.
A couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which character did you enjoy playing the most?
Oh, that's a tough question. Okay, Gundam's been pretty good to me. My very first, like I mentioned earlier, my very first Gundam series was a show called Gundam Wing, and I played Catra. And because of that, I got my invitation to my first convention, which I didn't even know these things existed at the time. So that really opened up my eyes. And it was at that same, the same Gundam convention where I also, like I wasn't, my eyes weren't opened enough. I also learned what yaoi was. And I'm still here, so obviously, some people would be freaked out and run, and some people would be, okay, let's check out what this entire thing is about, and not let just the yaoiness faze me. But, so Catra obviously has a sweet spot in my heart, and he's got the best Gundam too, my beloved Sandrock. I miss you, Sandrock. But then shortly after that, I was able to work on the original Mobile Suit Gundam playing Amuro. And I mean, to be the first Gundam pilot, pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. And the fact that I have like a full-scale Gundam parked in some lawn, in Japan. I probably have so many parking tickets on that thing right now. I should get somebody to move it. But I mean, that's obviously pretty cool, just because it's a legendary cartoon. Just to have a small part of it is pretty awesome for me. Now we get to Gundam Seed, which I think at this point they really weren't sure about casting me in the series, so they had me come in and read, because they're very nice people. And they basically said to me in the audition, so I get in, I got my script in front of me, they're like, so Brad, so you have some experience with the Gundam universe? I'm like, yeah, I've worked on 2 series, I love it, giant robots, kicks ass, it's great. Okay, so all your natural instincts towards this character you're reading for, do the opposite. Okay, so I read for a character named Diarca. Instead of being young and energetic, I was dark and brooding and whatnot. And they cast me, so I was super psyched. So then we go to Gundam Seed Destiny, and Diarca lived, woohoo! So he came back, and that was pretty cool. And they gave me another character to play on that series as well. His name was Aul, and my Aul is essentially like my horrible Cobra Commander impression. He's just all weird, like I don't know what I was doing, but I saw a picture of the character. I'm like, this is what he sounds like in my head, and they let me roll with it. So that was great. And then, so by that time, I thought I was probably pretty done with Gundam. There's no way they're going to want to put me on another Gundam series. Then Gundam 00 came out, and they very generously let me audition for it with no intentions to cast me, especially as the lead. There's just no way that was going to happen. So I went in and I read, and okay, little side story here. So I was at a convention right after I had the audition, and I didn't think I was allowed to talk about the series at all. But so I was signing autographs, and a couple of guys came up and they gave me a little Setsuna Gashapon figure. And they said, there's this new series called Gundam 00. We want you to play this guy. Here you go. And I was just bubbling over. I wanted to tell them, I just auditioned for this, and I don't have a shot at it. But awesome. So then I get back to town, and I still credit those 2 gentlemen for helping me get that part. Because I get back home, I get a call from the agency, and I was cast as Setsuna in Gundam 00. And for my first recording session, I was talking to one of the producers, and he was just laughing. I'm like, what's so funny? He goes, well, we weren't going to put you in this series, but we were listening through the audition tapes, and then I guess they get to, hi, this is Brad Swaile reading for Setsuna. And they're listening, and apparently they just looked at each other and went, oh crap, that's Setsuna. And so they cast me. So because of all that, it's really hard to pick one, because each one of them has kind of a soft spot in my heart. So I'm going to claim them all as my favorite and totally cheap out on that answer.
We have time for one more question.
Oh, really?
It's the gentleman with the unfinished burger there.
Oh, you
Unstarted.
haven't had a chance to eat yet?
No,
I've been
don't
talking
worry
too
about
much, I apologize.
You're fascinating.
You're very sweet.
Well, thanks.
Can I have half your burger? No, I'm kidding. I just ate it.
My question is on creativity.
Okay.
You're an artist, you're an actor. Who have you found to be sources of creativity, and how do you keep the creativity flowing?
That's a good question. That's a tough one.
Come on, I'll give you an easy one.
Yeah.
I want something to help me.
Okay. I'm taking your whole burger now. I find inspiration in a lot of various places. These things, conventions like this, I find extremely inspiring. I'm also a big Halloween nerd. So I go all out for Halloween. I build my costumes and stuff. So when I come here and I see some of the ridiculous craftsmanship that goes in costumes here, I find that inspiring. But if I also like to tinker and build things. I don't know, it's almost like a tick. I always have to be making something. So I guess with that in mind, one of my big inspirations is, it's going to sound stupid, but I don't care, Da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci. I love that he did so many different things. It's kind of like me, where I have interests in several areas, and I'm not willing to cut any one of them out of my life, which means that I'm still trying to work on us adopting a 36-hour day, because 24 hours is not enough. Because I'm really good at sleep, too. Like, I'm one of the best sleepers on the planet. But to get a little bit more modern, like, I got guys like Jim Henson, idols of mine, still to this day. But I do manage to find inspiration in a lot of different areas. And I also find that when I'm fulfilling some sort of creative need, no matter what it is, building furniture, voice acting, playing guitar, drums, or just doodling in my sketchbook and whatnot, those seem to be the times where I'm most content with the person that I am, or whatever. It's just the most happy. So that's something that I'm unwilling to phase out of my life. And I do continue to find inspiration in a lot of different areas. It's really one of the reasons that I come to conventions. I don't come here to pretend to be a celebrity for a weekend. I come in here to fuel up on all the energy that's happening out there and in here, and take it home with me so that I can, carry on with, some kind of contentness in my real humdrum world. So I thank you for that. Incidentally, absolutely, it's awesome. I feel very blessed to have opportunities like this, and particularly these days when there's less and less anime work coming up to Canada, I know that these invitations aren't going to last forever, and those will be sad days when it happens. So I'm just going to enjoy as much of this as I can while it happens, and hopefully it continues to happen for longer than it should.
Normally to close, that we asked how you think Anime Central is treating you, but if you're begging for burgers from Trust, that's a really good idea.
If you could unlock a shackle here, maybe I'll tell you. No, it's been an incredible experience thus far. Like I was alluding to earlier, it's nice to see, having a 10-year gap between, my very first convention, which happened to be here, and now being here today. It's really incredible to see how this show has grown. And I can translate that to other conventions too. It's something that continues to amaze me about the conventional world in general, is no matter the state of the world, politically, economically, what have you, conventions, for whatever reason, seem to be the one thing that continues to grow every year. And that's a really impressive thing to witness, and it obviously is a testament to what all of us are passionate about, that we will cut other things out of our life if we have to make sure that we can attend events like this, because these are the things that fuel us throughout the rest of the year. And, you know, considering the state of things these days and how, you know, crazy things can get, it really impresses me that conventions continue to grow and dominate the landscape of the planets. And so that's a testament to all of us doing our part to maintain the family atmosphere these things present, and the, you know, common creativity and everything else that's involved, not to mention the party.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for coming on.